What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Gsluke here with our weekly course breakdown, and this time we've got Harbour Town Golf Links in the RBC Heritage, which is going to be an elevated field this time around. We have all of the top players teeing it up, so it's going to be fireworks, electric over the weekend, and I'll be there in person. I've never been over there to Hilton Head before, never seen Harbour Town in person, so gonna walk the course on Wednesday. I'll be there Thursday through Sunday, so gonna be able to bring you some extra insight there from on site. But here in this video, gonna make sure you're prepared for all of your research. So we'll go through some of the course details for Harbour Town, we'll go through a hole by hole analysis, show you some of the shots that these players are going to be facing, and then at the end, by far the most important part of this video and one of the more important pieces of content I put out every single week, we're going to go through some of the key metrics and comp courses that I'm using in my modeling to identify my top plays and bets of the week. So by the end, you're going to be an expert of all things Harbour Town Golf Links and be completely prepared to go out there and get your week started. So with a lot to get into, let's go ahead and get this thing rocking. Harbour Town Golf Links over in beautiful Hilton Head, South Carolina. We've got ourselves a Pete Dye design. It's 7,100 yards, 7,191 to be exact, so a little bit closer to 7,200 yards and a par 71. It's more of a positional track than anything. You've got extremely small targets into the greens. In the fairways, though they aren't really stripes, right? They are about tour average in terms of their width. When you miss fairways around Harbour Town, you're going to be penalized to the fullest, whether it's water hazards, whether it's marsh areas, natural areas. The few wooded areas around the course tend to be extremely dense. It's about keeping the ball in play off the tee, hitting those small greens, and then when you inevitably miss the greens because they're only 3,700 square foot, getting yourself up and down like any other Pete Dye golf course. So when we take a look at the stats later, tee to green play is going to be the name of the game. But what we want to focus on here are a few of the key metrics or specifics to keep an eye on. So first and foremost, scoring average was slightly under par last year, 0.26 shots under to be exact, which led to a winning score of -13 of Jordan Spieth, my boy, right? So obviously a lot of good vibes at this event. Hit that outright last year. He won in a playoff over Patrick Cantlay, but you had, let's see, 11 players within 2 shots of the lead, so it was an extremely condensed leaderboard. Perhaps sometimes in the past we've seen winners closer to 15 or even 20 under par, but anytime you've got a Pete Dye design, you know it's going to be relatively difficult. So similar to a TPC Sawgrass, I would say, especially from the visual perspective. The courses over there for the RSM Classic, over there the Seaside and Plantation course, also very similar from the visual perspective. It's a low country type of feel over there in South Carolina, marshes everywhere, and it's exposed to the wind, particularly on a few of the holes closer to the coast. You'll get high winds from time to time that can wreak havoc. So this isn't a unique design. It's not a one-of-a-kind sort of thing. We see this kind of golf course, particularly over there, South Carolina and Georgia, all the time on tour. Just another one of the Matt Kuchar specials, the Davis Love specials, the Harris English, all of those southern type of players all tend to have success at these kind of tracks. A few things to note, the fairways are 34.4 yards wide, so like I said, the fairways about your tour average in terms of their width. That led to a 63.3% driving accuracy, which again is slightly lower than tour average, 2.7% lower. A lot of that due to the windy conditions in 2022. The greens are hard to hit, but maybe not as impossible to hit as you'd expect at just 3,700 square foot. And they were hit at a 61.7% clip last year, which is still well below the tour average, right? 6.5% in fact, below what we're used to seeing week to week. But at just 3,700 square foot, they are receptive. When you hit a solid iron shot, they are going to hold the greens here around Harbour Town, which is just going to put even more emphasis on that ball striking because the around the green shots at a Pete Dye golf course are where all of the difficulty is. If you take a look at the top end finishers, in fact, of the top 20 finishers last year, only 3 players lost significantly around the green, and there were 1 or 2 that lost 0.05, 0.1 shots around the green over their 4 rounds. But outside of that, all bunch of guys gaining over a stroke per round around the green. So like I said, even though the GIR average is 61.7%, which is a little bit higher than I would honestly expect at this type of golf course, you're going to be penalized heavily when you go out there and miss. A few other things, there's water in play on 18 holes, so that is all 18. There's going to be water in play. So kind of like a TPC Sawgrass, similar in that fashion, also to a PGA National. Pretty much everywhere you look, you're going to find water. And that's why driving accuracy ends up becoming so important. So when we go hole by hole, that'll become extremely evident. There are 54 sand bunkers, which is right about the tour average. They tend to be relatively deep around the green here. So once again, Pete Dye just trying to add difficulty to his courses. In the rough is pretty much non-existent. It's only 2.5 inches long, which is on the lower end of the spectrum in terms of your length, and it is a perennial ryegrass overseed. So similar to the rough over there at Augusta, just a little bit longer this time around, right? It's not going to be 0.3, 0.4 inches like we had over there for the Masters. A little bit more substantial this time around, but there's not that much rough out there. I have to say, kind of like the Seaside and Plantation course for the RSM Classic. Over here at the RBC, there's just little thin strips of rough. When you miss the fairways around here, oftentimes you've got the water nearby, which is again on every single hole, or the marsh areas, which are essentially like hitting into the water to begin with. The greens are a Poetrivolous overseed, the same type of greens that we've had for 6 of the last 7 weeks. Of course, the one real outlier there would be the Masters, so I guess don't look at those putting numbers. But if you want to look at the Florida swing, you have the Valspar, you even have the match play numbers you can look at, TPC Scottsdale, the Amex earlier on in this year. But by this point of the season, we have a massive sample size on the Poetrivolous overseed, so you should definitely be looking into that stat-wise out there. Alrighty guys, now for a little hole-by-hole look. Hole number 1, a handshake, but you can't fall asleep on this tee shot. You have one of the larger landing areas on the entire course, but you do have tree patches to the right, a tree patch to the left that can block you out. So one thing to consider here is that obviously getting into the pine straw, not going to be ideal, have to shape a shot onto the green, but they have these overhanging limbs that create angle issues, right? If you miss over here to the left, you're gonna have to hit a draw around the trees. You miss to the right, you might have to hit a fade to a right side pin location. So just want to point this out early because on every single hole, this is going to be a theme, is you have to set up angles into the green. You have to make sure that you're not going to be blocked out. So missing the hazards, important at any golf course, but especially so here to make sure that you have the angles into the greens. Hole 2 is 504 yards. Hit the short stuff here and you're going to have no issues getting home in 2. A lot of players will even hit 3-wood off the tee here. This is a positional hole off the tee, a scoring hole for everyone. I mean, you're going to see a bunch of eagles here at 2 and a hole that you need to take advantage of. Hole 3 is 468 on the longer end of the spectrum for the RBC Heritage. A tee shot that's a little bit more open on the left side. So you'll see a lot of guys aim up the cart path, hit a little bit of a fade, whether they hit the straight ball, end up in the rough, they hit, an over fade over there to the right side of the fairway, leaves you a wide open look to the green. So a difficult hole, but not nearly as impossible as some of the holes there in the backside. Hole 4 is 194, water to the left, devilish par 3. Hole 5, your second par 5 on the front. This one you can take off a lot of the corner here, so I actually moved up the second location here on the Pro Visualizer. Typically they have guys hitting 3-wood off the tee here. Any kind of driver will get you out close to this cart path, so definitely another 2-shotter in terms of the par 5s. Hole 6 is 419, little dogleg from left to right, a tee shot where you can have a lot of problems missing over here to the left, a little waist bunker you can see under the shadows over there, a difficult tee shot. All the fairways here also tend to run out a little bit more than most courses, something I thought I would point out. Hole 7 is another par 3. The around the green shots here are nearly impossible. You can see they're little waist bunkers with little patches of grass in the center. So those are extremely difficult. Lots of sketchy lies out there. Hole 8 is one of the longer par 4s, 474 dogleg from right to left. Another one of those waist bunkers to the right side, which doesn't seem like it's in play, but this is just 300 yards. Any of the longer hitters that are hitting driver can easily run out through the fairway, particularly under firm and fast conditions. And then you have this water and waist bunker on the left side, which don't seem like a massive issue, but a lot of times players that are running a draw over the edge here end up running through the bunker and into the water. So it's a devilish hole to say the least. Hole 9 is a drivable par 4, but you can't really get it on the surface because of the bunker in front. So most players will hit a 3-wood off the tee, leave themselves a little bit of a pitch onto the surface. Some of the longer hitters may try and get it the whole way to the bunker, but a lot of that is wind dependent. Plays relatively flat, but at 327 with that bunker in front, unless you're somebody that can carry it, a solid 305, 310, you're probably best hitting something like a 3-wood or an iron off the tee. Back 9 is where things get hard. Hole number 10 is 464. Dogleg from right to left. You have the water the whole way down the left side. Now, there's no trees to the right, so you can certainly bail out over here, but a lot of times it creates a difficult angle into the green. So if you're more aggressive off the tee, you do set up a wide open look, so you can see, like over here, guys, right? It's a wide open look to pretty much all 4 possible pin locations. Over here to the right side, that back right pin's difficult. This front right pin can also be a little bit difficult depending on just how far right over here you get. The left side pin locations, maybe not so bad, but just shows you the importance of that accuracy. Hole 11 is 437. This is a tight tee shot, also a relatively small surface that you can see. Hole 12 is 432, another tight tee shot, dogleg from left to right. If you miss over here to the right side, this becomes a 3-shotter, as these trees are just going to swallow up any ball that you hit. And then this waist bunker to the left gets a lot of attention too. And this green, you can see it's a little bit strangely shaped. It has this little finger over here to the back left side. That's the Sunday pin location, and you're just going to see bogey after bogey over here at 12. Hole 13 is 377, another shorter par 4, but this tee shot, like almost every tee shot around here, is just difficult. I mean, look at this. Waist bunker to the left side. You have like a 10-yard wide landing area right here. So the smart play, the prudent play, is to lay back a little bit, probably not even be as aggressive as Pro Visualizer is saying, and leave yourself 110, 120 yards in. So at least that's what I would do if I was playing that hole. Hole 14 is 192. This is another super difficult par 3 with water the whole way on the right side. And this right here is in a real shaded off area of the golf course. It's protected from the wind with these trees, which makes it really difficult to get a read on, what to expect up there with your iron shot. Hole 15 is 588. This is not nearly as reachable as the par 5s on the front. So if you're going to make your birdies, you're going to get your easy eagle looks. It's going to be there on holes 2 and 5. Hole 15 is a 3-shotter for a majority of the field. Perhaps if you're a bomber, you can hit a little bit of a draw around the corner, but then you bring this waist bunker into play. If you hit the straight ball, if you overcook it, you're over here in the trees. It's just usually not worth the squeeze. Hole 16 is 421. Dogleg from right to left. Another positional hole. You just hit an iron, maybe hit a 3-wood off the tee and leave yourself a wedge in. There's no incentive to try and go for this green. There's nobody in the field long enough to do so. Maybe Gordon Sargent out here in like 3-4 years. Hole 17 is 212. Like all the par 3s, there's water in play. This is the most exposed of all the holes on property. You can see most of them, protected by trees, right? But hole 17 and hole 18, right on the water. So if you're going to see a huge wind effect, it's going to be on these last 2 finishing holes, and particularly this tee shot, which usually plays directly into the teeth of the wind. Hole 18 is 471. Long hole also exposed on the left side to the wind, but wide open tee shot. I mean, this is the widest fairway on tour. You can't even fit the whole thing in the frame here. So hit the short stuff, which should be done by pretty much everyone out there. And you're going to leave yourself a difficult iron shot, usually at least like 160, up maybe even 200 yards off the tee, depending on, just how far you hit that drive, to a green that has a ton of undulation to it. So you're going to see a lot of bogeys here and potential doubles and triples. This natural area doesn't seem like it's in play, right? Let's see. It's like 330 to get there. So 325 will get you into that hazard. You're going to see a few guys do so, particularly if it plays downwind. So maybe you hit 3-wood off the tee to make sure you don't do so. And then these bushes in front of the green here and to the left of the green are also going to get a lot of action. Now, they're not an automatic lost ball. Last year, Matty Fitz hit it into that, was able to get it out. I think Spieth in round 2 hit it into the bushes short of the green, was able to get it out onto the green. But a majority of the players, like you'd expect, do have to take a penalty drop. And a majority of the time, if they hit a draw, maybe it's like a little bit closer to the bunker. But most of the time, you don't cover any of the surface over there. And you have to drop right here and hit another iron shot 2 strokes later. So it's definitely a devilish little finishing hole that can serve up quite the bit of drama. Now that we've seen the golf course, let's go ahead and take a look at our key stats for the week to get an idea of how I'm identifying my top plays and bets. At number one, we've got shots gained approach, which is almost always going to be number one. So I guess the important thing to focus on here is the wedges are a little bit more important around Harbour Town than they are at most venues. Those short par fours, you're going to have that 100 to 125 yard range, a lot more than most tracks. I mean, last week at Augusta, you maybe had it once in an entire round, right? This week, you're going to have 6-7 shots in that range. And if you're laying up on the par fives, maybe even half of your holes are going to be in that 50 to 125 yard range. So looking at approach play, but particularly those wedges, that's why guys like Kuchar have had so much success at the Heritage over the years, and a lot of those shorter plotter sort of players. And number two, we've got driving accuracy, which, hole by hole, right? You probably got tired of me talking about how tight it is off the tee, but it's true. You have to set up those angles, avoid those hazards, avoid being blocked out, having to shape a shot into the green, kind of like Augusta National. If you do so, it just adds so much difficulty, and that's why Brooks Koepka on Sunday couldn't do anything, right? He couldn't be aggressive, wasn't able to go out there, take aim at pins, and was really just playing defense all day because he couldn't keep himself in the fairway. It's the same kind of thing at the Heritage, except that the fairways are about half the size. The area where you're not going to be blocked out might even be a third of the size as what you get over there at Augusta National. So driving accuracy, certainly extremely important this time around. And at number three, we've got shots gained around the green, which with 3,700 square foot greens, a 62% green and regulation percentage is going to be important. And it's worth noting that last year they did have rain the week of the event. Obviously, there is rain going through that area as well. You saw so over there with Augusta. So the green and regulation percentage this year and probably last year was at its highest, right? At its apex. And last year around the green play was clearly important because if you look at the top 5 to top 10, it's all some of the best around the green players in the world, right? Jordan Spieth, right? We know his world-class short game. You got guys like Cantlay up there. Guys like Shane Lowry got themselves into the mix. And even a lot of the value plays finishing in the top 5, top 10 were significant gainers to the field in terms of shots gained around the green. So that's another key stat I'm looking at. I think the par 5s are a really good way to go out there and score. If you take a look at a lot of the top 5 finishers, usually taking apart the par 5s here at Harbour Town. So par 5 scoring is important. I'm taking a look at shots gained at courses under 7,200 yards. Typically, when driving accuracy is the name of the game over driving distance, there are types of players that tend to find success at these sort of tracks. Taking a look at shots gained at Pete Dye golf courses, there's an art form to taking apart this diabolical mess, as they say, and shots gained at our comp courses, which of course we're going to hop into right now. In terms of comps, I think at number one, if you have 2 courses here, they're undoubtedly the best comps we've got. It's the Sea Island courses, the Plantation and the Seaside course. So the RSM Classic, similar part of the country, right? Island off of Georgia. So just a couple hours south of there. But more importantly, you have that those plantation course type of holes where you have the trees protecting you. The Seaside course is very similar to holes 17 and 18 around Harbour Town, where you have exposed holes to the wind. The marshes come in play at all the holes around the Seaside course. You have tight fairways, different designers, right? The Plantation and Seaside course, actually 2 different designers, not designed by Pete Dye, but really tight tracks with small greens that, if you told me that they were all Pete Dye designs in the same 15, 20 year span, I would believe you. So just having been at the RSM Classic, having seen the RBC Heritage on TV time and time again, I'm figuring that when I get there on site on Wednesday, it's going to feel extremely similar. So at number one, I'm looking at that. If you take a look at crossover success, it is ridiculous. Some of the players that have found just sustained success at both golf courses. And I think the number one guy to me has to be Webb Simpson, who has just top 5 machine at both of these sort of tracks. So taking a look at that for comps, I think could be important. In the good thing about grouping these 2 together, right, even though it is a 2-course setup for the RSM Classic, is that we can just take a look at the golf course or the golf tournament as a whole and get the idea there. Because I think both courses, the Plantation course is more like the first 15 holes, and the Seaside course again gives you a good idea for those last 2 or 3. Number 2, we've got YLI Country Club, the home of the Sony Open. So the first real full field event of the season, right after the Century Tournament champions over there at Kapalua. It's a short positional track with a bunch of trees off the tee. It's all about driving accuracy, and then all about that wedge play and iron play. So from the skill set perspective, there's a ton of crossover. The agronomy is going to be different parts of the world, obviously, both islands, but completely different in terms of the visual perspective. But it's more about the skill set there. So, like Sea Island is skill set and it's from the visual perspective. We're more looking at just the raw shots gained stuff over there at YLI. At number 3, we've got TPC Sawgrass, the stadium course. So this is a peat dye design, which is unlike those top 2 golf courses. So you have that going for it. But more importantly, water and play on all 18 holes. Same thing over here. I have to say, right, hole by hole, didn't look like water was in play on all 18 holes. I guess like right next to the tee box, there's a water hazard. So they'll count it as quote unquote in play. But yeah, over there at Sawgrass, it's the same thing, right? There's not water in play on technically every single hole, but water all around the property. You have those tree-lined fairways, gets real dense over there. I think maybe from the skill set perspective, not a perfect comp like you have there at YLI. It is a little bit longer after all. Does reward driving distance a little bit more than I think what you're going to have here at Harbour Town. But given the design crossover, given some of the success, Webb Simpson, another course that Webb Simpson's won at, definitely worth taking a few looks at for your modeling. Alrighty guys, that is all I've got for the course breakdown. Before you hop out of here, go ahead, comment down below. Let me know what you think the winning score is going to be. I'm personally going to expect it to play a little bit easier. Obviously with the stronger field, I think guys are going to go a little bit lower. I'm going to take 18 under par as my winner, but go ahead, let me know your comments down below. And as per usual guys, looking forward to all the content throughout the week. Being on site is going to be a blast. Make sure to stop on by for the live stream on Wednesday so you guys can get my take from the practice round, right? Going to be able to walk around, take a look, right? Take it all in. Figure out exactly how it's all laid out, what kinds of shots are going to be required, because seeing it on TV, watching it is one thing, but being out there in person, actually watching these guys have to take it on is a completely different experience, right? You really get an appreciation for these courses. So looking forward to being able to do that, add it to the database, right? The Rolodex going forward, be able to use that information and relay it onto you guys as well. So looking forward to it, guys. Again, comment down below your winning score for the week. Smash that like button before you hop on out of here too, and I'll catch you guys later on for the core plays and value plays video for the RBC Heritage.